Welcome to Heat Checks and Hail Marys. This is Mike Cagley. Well, this is quite a week we had. We got a chance to see the Nittany Lions almost blow out Notre Dame early, but then errant throws from Drew Aller and wide receivers that probably couldn't get separation from myself and Brad Sturdy. That allowed the Irish to not only survive the first half, but they were able to come back and win a close one to push them to the CFP title game. Ohio State won in an electrifying game that featured two amazing plays that made the difference in the favor of the Buckeyes. But if one of them didn't happen, the second one might not have either. And the Fighting Illini have an historic win over Penn State and then are upset in one of the poorest outings they've had in a long time against USC. All the while, Kasparis Jakusione's left arm, that injury on his forearm, is stirring up concern amongst the Illini faithful. And certainly, folks, when there are no facts, rumors and innuendos surge in and fill up all the space. And the Illini's women program got a huge win over number 23 Iowa, despite having multiple players injured and out for the season. We are seeing that Shauna Green has got an opportunity to build the culture. And not only is she building it, but she's reinforcing it and having this team play so well with the number of season ending injuries they are dealing with. Let's take a deeper dive into a few things. Heat check number one, Illinois' historic win over Penn State. The Illini did a few things that are extremely rare in their win over Penn State. They had three Illini score at least 20 points in the same game. They recorded their second conference win by over 30 points this season. And at the time that happened, the whole Big Ten only had two combined victories of over 30 points in the Big Ten games. They fell behind 11-5 with 14:29 remaining and then outscored PSU 86-41 the rest of the way. And they did all this without KJ, their leading scorer. Now, this was an impressive win over a team that was 12-3 overall, 2-2 in the conference coming into the game. Well, why did I think the team is playing well? Well, I think there's two areas that the team improved in mightily. First off, they now have essentially 2 point guards, Kasparis and Kylan Boswell. Last year, the Illini were more of a point guard by committee, and having two fundamentally sound ball handlers is a huge asset for the team and allows the coach to play different combinations of people without a negative. The second point is having rim protection by Tomislav Ivasic and Morez Johnson is much better than using thin power forward Coleman Hawkins to protect the rim against larger true centers. And of course, Dane Danger, maybe 6'8", wasn't big enough to guard, and Coleman Hawkins wasn't thick enough. Now, they both tried fantastically, but now Illinois has two players that can effectively guard in the paint and effectively reject shots that are coming into the paint. Give Coach Underwood and his staff a thumbs up for the improved roster construction for this season. At the same time, what could cause such a poor outing the very next game? Well, this team is still young in Big Ten experience, and it showed. Taking any Big Ten opponent lightly is really dangerous. Not being able to play, not being ready to play, sets up any team in the Big Ten for a loss. The Illini looked as though they imagined the word Illinois on the jersey would be enough to win the game. It was not. It has never been. Whatever happened during game preparation, whether it was a late night out on Friday, a lack of effort to study the game plan, a simple lack of respect for USC, or a combination of multiple factors, this Illinois team learned a hard lesson. In Division I basketball, in a general, when you look at Division I basketball generally across the board, and then you look at Big Ten basketball specifically, you must show up ready to play and then give your best effort to guarantee a victory. Half-assed efforts will not win games. Instantaneous eligibility in the transfer portal and NIL funds to motivate players to utilize the portal to gain financially and or gain in minutes played has evened out the talent more than ever. With only 5 guys on the court, it's not like you need to have 30 players to have an effective team. Showing no respect to another team in the form of preparation is a recipe for a disaster. This is an inexcusable home loss that comes ahead of a brutal road trip traveling to Indiana and then a Michigan State team that is outplaying its expectations. Now, we all know Brad Underwood hates 3-game losing streaks, but with Kasparas injured and his ability to play in question, this trip is much more dangerous than it looked on paper, and it looked plenty scary on paper. Hail Mary number 1. Is everything at Penn State Drew Aller's fault, or is it James Franklin's fault? Well, it's human nature to analyze a loss and try to figure out who's at fault for a loss. Humans love pointing the finger as long as it doesn't point at them. Well, there's a lot of folks right now who want to place this latest loss at the feet of Drew Aller, and there's another group who want to assign blame to James Franklin. Now, in fairness, Aller looks the part of a great quarterback. He stands 6'5", weighs 238 pounds. If there's a picture in the dictionary of the prototypical strong-arm passer, it very well might show Drew Aller's image next to it. Now, Aller improved this season over last season in his second year as a starter. His completion percentage increased all the way up to 66.5, and his passing yards moved up to 3,327. He's played better against most of the Nittany Lions' schedule, but it has been noted that he struggled against both Ohio State and Notre Dame. My counter to this is, who hasn't, other than Northern Illinois and Michigan? That's really strange, but it is what it is. From an intangible standpoint, Aller didn't seem to ever get comfortable against Notre Dame. His accuracy was off, and even his footwork wasn't as precise as usual when he went back to pass. One could make a case that if he had played better in the first half, the Nittany Lions could have racked up a nearly bulletproof lead. But that didn't happen. Worse, an errant Aller pass set up the final drive for the Fighting Irish to kick the winning field goal. That makes some of the Aller detractors very angry. Meanwhile, some believe that James Franklin's 1-15 record against top 5 teams means he can't win the big game. And even some are saying he should be fired as the Penn State head coach. It should be noted that former Penn State coach Joe Paterno, he was actually 3-12 in his first 15 games against top 5 teams while at Penn State. So it's not easy to beat teams in the top 5. It's also very hard to do well when two teams that are annually knocking on the door to being top 5 teams happen to be in your division, and you must play them each year. That is Ohio State and Michigan in the old Big Ten setup. In my opinion, Franklin didn't have any glaring moments during the Notre Dame game. I do wonder why he tried to big brother Notre Dame coach Marcus Freeman in the press conferences on game week. It was clear, if you watch the media coverage, that Freeman did not respond positively to this verbal strategy. One wonders if a less boisterous and less inflammatory approach. One wonders if a less boisterous and a less inflammatory approach wouldn't have been a better way to deal with the opposing coach. No one knows if this is a key factor or just trivia, but why give an opposing coach motivation that he can then try to pass on to his team when they should have plenty of motivation already playing to get to the championship game? I've never understood firing up another team outside of just the importance of the game. Clearly, as a developing collegiate player, Aller needs to keep improving. There are dozens of colleges who would love to have him playing quarterback at their school. And even more schools would love to have James Franklin show up on the sidelines coaching their football team. I'm not sure if either one is the primary issue with Penn State football, though. To my eyes, Penn State hasn't really changed much over the last decade or even longer. It feels like two things keep happening to this program. One is they can't seem to recruit wide receivers that are difference makers. It's Penn State. I have no idea why this is happening. And certainly they keep getting wide receivers who simply can't get separation when they are playing against the best of the best. Now, they can get separation when they're playing against other teams in the Big Ten, but when they get to the elite Big Ten teams or they get to the elite teams across the country, that doesn't happen. And then when the Nittany Lions are led by a talented quarterback who is good but not great, Nittany Lions fans are left wanting more. Now, maybe this is an effect of the Nittany Lions missing on their top recruits, or maybe they need to go to battle with NIL to get the very top quarterback recruits if they want to win. Sometimes you lose games until you don't lose them. What I mean by that is, let's think back on Jim Harbaugh. He took a lot of heat in Michigan for losing his first 5 times against Ohio State. Then he started a streak that's now up to 4 consecutive Michigan wins and included a season where Michigan won the national title. But until he beat Ohio State, it was on his back that he couldn't do it. Penn State needs to keep improving their talent level until they can look back at a season that they take down a top 5 team or 2. The CFP will allow for even more opportunities to face top 5 teams. In the future, Penn State must turn those opportunities into accomplishments. They will not do that unless their future quarterbacks have more individuals to throw to. And that means beyond throwing to a tight end and running backs. In CFP games, you're going to need talented wide receivers to stretch the defense and provide your quarterbacks open targets to throw to. There's no quarterback who can thread the proverbial needle every time to get a pass to a well-covered wide receiver. And when you play against CFP teams, that is what you're going to run into. And repeated opportunities to throw those passes probably won't work out well for Penn State. Hail Mary number 2. 2 plays make a huge difference, or was it just one? Ohio State versus Texas was a fantastic game to watch. And as great as Ohio State has played, they were two plays away from going home without a W themselves. But maybe it was just one, if you really think about it. To be clear, though, the reason why teams win is because they make big plays. And Ohio State has consistently made big plays since the CFP started. But let's go back and think, what if? What if the Buckeyes hadn't made the perfect call and Travion Henderson hadn't looked like he was a modern day version of Tony Dorsett streaking down the field like a bullet, turning a short pass into a 75-yard touchdown. Without this play, later the Longhorns would have been tied instead of being down by a touchdown. Maybe then Texas decides to kick a field goal to go up by 3 instead of going for it on fourth down. If they don't go for it on fourth down, then the second huge play never happens. Now, note, this is not an Avengers movie, but I am a fan of the Marvel Universe. So maybe I've seen too many of those movies, but I also believe the reality of what I'm postulating is true. Jack Sawyer's 83-yard strip of Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers, and then running, maybe rumbling for a touchdown, was nearly as dramatic as the first round of Hagler Hearns. And it took almost as long. But Sawyer's heroics were incredible, and he has literally been legendary. And whether the Buckeyes win or lose in the title game, it should be a crime if he has to ever pay for a drink in the state of Ohio ever again. But without that screen pass at the end of the second quarter, Sawyer's moment may not have ever happened. Without that screen pass and the execution on that play, we may not be talking about Sawyer. We may be talking about a field goal late in the game by Texas and Texas's defense saving a victory. The margin between a team going to the title game and the team going home is razor thin. When a coach says play hard every play, believe me, he's correct. It can make a difference. Just ask Texas. The Buckeyes made big plays, and they advanced to be the heavy favorite against Notre Dame. But beware, Notre Dame is a team that's very comfortable playing as the underdog. I think this has the making for a classic championship game, and I can't wait.